Hi everyone and welcome to the Global Monthly Video Hop, and this theme is boxes. Now I am using the new Humble Home bundle. I love this little set. It's got the punch that matches and there are two variations on the little houses, and this one I've created a tiny box that will contain a little treat and an idea for Christmas celebrations. So this is going to hang on a miniature Christmas tree, which is why it's got the little string on it. So you can see I've created 12 boxes, so the 12 days of Christmas. Now it can get a little bit tricky, and I'm just showing you here that the boxes, particularly if you're only going to try and do the front little house, makes it a little difficult to open and close. But believe me, when you open and close them several times, they do get easier. And of course, if you've got something stuffed inside, that the weight seems to make it much easier. So this is a very simple project. It is making a box with a base and a lid that are cut from exactly the same measurements. So I'm going to start by showing you how I assembled the little house. So this is the top and the back of, or the front and the back of the box itself. And I have created quite a lot of these, so I went on a bit of a mass production of these. Now the dimensions for this I will pop at the bottom of the page as I go along, but basically your little box is approximately 2.5 by 3.5 centimeters, so just a little bit bigger than an inch and an inch and a quarter, inch and a half in size. So it is big enough to put a little sweet, a little wrapped lolly in it. And I'm going to think of 12 cheap little ways of celebrating Christmas for my son, and give this to him at the beginning of December. So he's got the lead up to Christmas doing things we used to do when he was young. So things like, he's just moved out of home, so I wanted to remind him of all those sorts of things. So things like grabbing some microwave popcorn and watching a Christmas movie, going for a drive at night and looking at all the Christmas lights, all those kind of little things that don't cost a lot of money, because he is only 19 and he doesn't have a lot of money to spend on things like that. But hopefully it will help him to remember what Christmas was like when he was younger. So here I am, I'm just stamping them out. I'm using the brick pattern, and I am using crumb cake ink for that one, and then adding on the roof. And so the roof does have a chimney as well, and I'm using the Old Olive for that. I have stamped, as you can see, the door and windows stamps, so stamp them separately. I'm going to have a real red door, as you can see, and the Old Olive little windows. Now the door is actually popped up on some dimensionals as well. Now something I did want to mention about these punches, they do store flat. They have that little tab that you can, when you push it down, you can slide that across and it holds them flat. This is fantastic because they stack. And it is as easy as this. You ink up and stamp your image and then punch it out. Saves a lot of cutting. It does get a fairly accurate small white border or small border around the outside of it as well. This punch also has two other small elements, little square, which you can use to stamp those windows on, and little hearts, which would be perfect if you're trying to do like a little new house, or welcome to our home, or a little Valentine's kind of idea as well, I guess. So you'll see that I did chop off the chimney off the back for the one that goes on the back, and that was only because when I did trial it, it looked a bit funny having the chimney because it ends up on the opposite side. So I just trimmed that back so that you've got it, so you still got your back of your house with its bricks and everything. And I have found that these are really simple because they're square and rectangular shapes, very easy to cut out. Be careful, here is a tip for you, be careful when you are using real red. I find it's probably one of the few, Night of Navy is another one. They do tend to take a little bit longer to dry, and I think that is that pinkish red pigment that is in the ink. And yes, Night of Navy has a red base to it, and this will stain your photopolymer stamps. So you will notice when I was stamping that you could see like a pinkish hue to the stamps, because I have used them for all those other doors as well. So I'm using the mini dimensional dots to pop up the door, and this just gives it that nice little bit of dimension. Now, I'll be honest, I could use Wink of Stella on this. I could go to town with some diamantes and pearls and all sorts of pretty bling, but this one here is going to be for a boy. So I'm going to keep it fairly simple. Now, another tip, I am using the Tombow glue, which is my number one most recommended product to have when you are crafting, paper crafting. It is fantastic. But I have decanted some of it into one of these little squeezy bottles with the fine tip on it. You can buy a fine tip one, but this one is super soft and easy to squeeze. And then I'm just using my multi-tool here to, and I've used the little putty end to stick those on. So you can see they kind of easily go on there, and it's as simple as that. Now, these would be cute just used on a card or anything, but we are going to create the box element. And this box element, like I said, very simple. You basically cut two of exactly the same because they do fit inside each other. You do have to give them a little bit of a pinch. The inside one pinches a little bit to fit inside. But it is as simple as doing 7.5 centimeters by 6.5 centimeters. But before you actually cut it down to 6.5, you want to use this time when you've got a big long strip to do your scoring. So I do 2 centimeters in on both long sides and then cut my pieces out of that. So this basically is a cheat's way of creating multiples so that you're not having to constantly lift the guide and constantly cut and score. The scoring 2 centimeters will allow your box to be 2 centimeters high. If you feel you need it slightly more roomy, then you would need to probably increase all of your measurements by 1 or 2 centimeters so that it's giving you extra space. However, this is the easiest way. So you will want that scoring to be on both the horizontal and vertical sides. It was just that I was doing it once and then cutting just to make it a little bit easier. So along those longer edges, the 7.5 centimeter edge, I'm going to use that same brick pattern stamp, and I'm going to stamp it with the crumb cake. Now what this does is it allows, like I showed you, that patterning around the outside so that you've got the brick pattern even if you can see the top or the sides of your little box that's hanging on your tree or sitting on the desk or wherever you're putting it as a decoration. So it's pretty simple. I just roughly stamp it along using that score line as my edge that I stamp the bottom of it. Now this doesn't have to be perfect. It's just to give the illusion that the box is a part of the house. Once it's all folded and glued together, it's really quite simple. So I go ahead and I do that with both. Now, the reason that I've done it with both, it's not necessary. You only really need to do it on the box that sits on the outside, because the inner box that tucks inside, actually you won't see it. But for me, it was just easier. I just did both. So then when I went to glue and put them together, it didn't really matter which one tucked inside the other. I didn't have to make it quite so perfect. And because you are making these the same size essentially, some of them will be slightly bigger than the others, so you do want to have that wiggle room of choosing which one you want to put inside. So I'm now making these little tab marks up along the blank section, and it's on either end. So you're basically going along that the scored line and then make a little tab in. Now this just makes it easier and makes the box sit with more of a square look to it. We do this for all boxes and other things that we're creating where we've got a fold. So I'm doing this just for both boxes, and then you will see in a second that I will fold them and burnish them down just with my finger. It doesn't have to be a bone folder, although you can, but just using your hands and fingers to create those creases is all you need. Now I did create the other 10 boxes or so that I did make previously, all in a bulk amount. So I cut and scored and mitered cut everything, stamped them all, and then put them all together with the glue. It just made it much faster. So if you are creating these in bulk, I would encourage you to do that. instead of making one at a time. So do everything you can in batches. So you can see that I am folding down the blank tabs just so it's easier, and then putting some glue on the inside. Whoops, there we go. A little bit of extra glue there. So don't waste that glue. I use a quick tip is using a piece of scrap paper and just adhere it to my other sections. So you won't need excessive amounts of glue for this, but you will need a decent amount so that they hold strong. And literally I put it down on my desk and then fold it upwards. This kind of creates a more a boxed box, if that makes sense. So it's easier to get your angles on your corners straight. Tend to with these boxes, sometimes they don't quite sit right, but if you are folding them in and using the desk as the part that you lean on, it does tend to make the boxes a lot more square, I guess is the right probably term for it. So I do put glue on all 4 tabs, but I do one end, hold it for 1 or 2 seconds, and then do the other end. Don't put these together. Allow them to dry for a couple of minutes before you actually put one inside the other. Even though I'm going to show you in this one, you start by putting it inside on the bottom, and you do squeeze the one that's going inside. You kind of just squeeze the middle of each section, and it does eventually go together. I would suggest, like I said earlier, don't put them all the way in. It just makes it easier when you're trying to remove one from the other. It is as simple now as putting your front and back on. And so these little houses are super cute. And the dimensions I've given you, it fits exactly behind that little house. So that it's not really visible at all. If you made it a little bit bigger, or a little bit wider, you would see the box. Probably wouldn't matter so much. You could create a whole box and have the little house in the middle. So it is as simple as that. Now I do want to hang mine, like I said, it's going on a little mini tree. So I am using some baker's twine. Now this one is the crumb cake. It came in a set, I think, of 3 or 4. And I just sort of measure it. And I'm simply just going to tie this around. I do a double knot, and I leave just enough tails to knot together to form the hanger piece. Very simple, but it does finish this off very easily. You could, of course, punch a hole. Excuse me. Could, of course, punch a hole and put a hanging ornament, or hang a piece of string. But this way, it sits in the middle of the box, and it's going to hang really nicely, particularly once that box has got a few coins or a lolly or something in it. It gives that little bit of weight, and it will hang nicely on a branch of a tree or whatever you're going to hang it from. And that is our little tiny box. Now they are tiny, so let me remind you. So you can see I have added numbers, and this is for the Advent. Now they were just numbers that I die cut from an old set of alphabet dies. You could use stickers, you could handwrite it, if you've got a Cricut machine or something similar that actually cuts, you could definitely do that as well. Now you can see here I do struggle a little bit to take these apart, so I would suggest before even gluing your houses front and back on, just to open and close them several times, making sure that you are adding plenty of glue when you do put the images on the front and back, because that will allow you to open it. Of course, these could be reusable, but my intention is probably they will get destroyed when they do get opened anyway. So I'm not too worried about the fact that they're a very snug fit. I did want them really firm, and that's why the measurements are exactly the same for front or for inside and outside box. So thanks very much for joining me, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.